This truth stands in direct opposition to how most people are conditioned to live. From an early age, many are taught to measure their worth through applause, attention, approval, and acceptance. They look outward to feel complete. A queen moves in the opposite direction. She turns inward first. She understands that power borrowed from others is fragile, temporary, and easily taken away, while power built within is stable, quiet, and unshakable. Inner discipline is the ability to govern oneself regardless of circumstances. It is waking up with intention rather than emotion. It is choosing restraint when reaction feels easier. It is doing what must be done even when no one is watching and no reward is promised. A queen does not rely on motivation, she relies on structure. She does not wait to feel confident. She behaves with discipline, and confidence follows as a result. External validation is unpredictable. Today it is given, tomorrow it is withdrawn. When a person depends on it, they become reactive, anxious, and easily manipulated. Their mood rises and falls based on how others respond to them. A queen refuses to live in this dependency. She knows that when validation becomes the source of power, approval becomes the master. Inner discipline breaks this cycle. It creates emotional independence. It allows her to remain steady whether praised or criticized. A disciplined queen understands her emotions but is not ruled by them. She feels deeply, yet she does not allow feelings to dictate her actions. When anger arises, she pauses. When desire pulls her forward, she questions it. When fear whispers doubt, she observes it without surrendering. This self-regulation is not suppression, it is mastery. Through mastery, she protects her dignity, her energy, and her direction. Inner discipline also shapes how a queen speaks. She does not fill silence to ease discomfort. She does not explain herself to be understood by everyone. She speaks when her words add value, and she remains silent when silence preserves power. Many people talk to be liked. A queen speaks to be aligned with truth. She understands that every word carries weight, and unnecessary words weaken presence. In her relationships, inner discipline becomes boundaries. She does not overgive to feel needed. She does not tolerate inconsistency to avoid loneliness. She does not chase affection to prove worth. Instead, she observes patterns. She responds to effort with effort and withdraws from disrespect without hostility. Her discipline allows her to walk away without hatred and stay without attachment. A queen's discipline is visible in how she treats her body and mind. She respects her physical form as a vessel of power. She trains it, nourishes it, and rests it with intention. Not to impress, but to honor herself. Her mind is equally guarded. She is selective about what she consumes, what she listens to, and what she allows to influence her thinking. Gossip, chaos, and negativity do not entertain her because she understands that what enters the mind shapes identity. External validation often pushes people to perform versions of themselves that are not real. They adapt, shrink, exaggerate, or compromise to fit expectations. A queen with inner discipline refuses this performance. She is consistent. Her values do not change based on who is present. This consistency creates trust, authority, and respect, not through force, but through integrity. When challenges arise, inner discipline becomes her anchor. She does not collapse when things do not go her way. She does not blame the world or beg for sympathy. She reflects, adjusts, and continues. Her resilience is quiet. She does not dramatize struggle or advertise pain. She understands that endurance is built in silence, not spectacle. A queen also knows that discipline is not harshness. It is devotion. It is choosing long-term strength over short-term comfort. It is saying no when temptation offers easy pleasure and saying yes to effort when growth demands it. Each disciplined choice reinforces her self-respect. Over time, this self-respect becomes unshakable confidence. Those who rely on external validation often feel empty even when surrounded by attention. A queen may stand alone and feel whole. Her fulfillment does not come from being admired, pursued, or chosen. It comes from knowing she is living in alignment with her highest standards. This alignment is what others sense when they feel her presence without understanding why. Inner discipline is the invisible crown. It cannot be seen, yet it is felt. It shapes posture, tone, decisions, and direction. It allows a queen to move through life without desperation, without comparison, without the need to prove anything. When discipline leads, validation becomes irrelevant, because her worth is no longer something to be granted by the world, but something she embodies through daily, deliberate choices. Without it, authority collapses into performance, and confidence becomes a mask worn to hide insecurity. Self-respect is not an attitude displayed for others, but a private agreement made with oneself. It is the standard that governs choices, reactions, and boundaries long before anyone else is involved. When self-respect is absent, people attempt to command respect through force, validation seeking, or control. When self-respect is present, authority arises naturally, without effort or explanation. Authority begins internally. A person who does not respect themselves cannot expect others to do so consistently. Even if admiration is temporarily given, it lacks weight and longevity. Self-respect stabilizes identity. It prevents a person from bending under pressure, shrinking to be accepted, or overextending to be liked. It creates an unspoken message. There are lines that will not be crossed, values that will not be compromised, and standards that will not be lowered. Self-respect is revealed most clearly in moments of temptation and discomfort. When someone offers attention at the cost of dignity, self-respect decides the response. When disrespect is disguised as humor or affection, self-respect determines whether it is tolerated or rejected. Many people abandon self-respect slowly through small compromises that feel harmless in the moment. Over time, these compromises erode authority. A person who cannot say no to what diminishes them eventually loses the ability to be taken seriously. True authority does not demand obedience, it inspires it. This inspiration comes from consistency. A self-respecting individual behaves the same whether they are watched or alone. Their words match their actions. Their boundaries are enforced calmly, without hostility or guilt. They do not threaten to leave, they simply leave when standards are violated. This predictability creates respect because others know where they stand. Self-respect also governs emotional behavior. It prevents impulsive reactions that expose insecurity. A person with self-respect does not lash out to feel powerful, nor do they remain silent out of fear. They choose responses that preserve dignity. They do not beg for understanding or chase closure. They trust that clarity is demonstrated through behavior, not arguments. In communication, self-respect removes the need for over-explanation. Those who lack it often justify, defend, and plead to be understood. Those who possess it speak plainly and allow others to interpret as they will. They understand that authority weakens when one tries too hard to be accepted. Silence, when chosen with intention, often carries more weight than excessive words. Self-respect is also reflected in how one manages time and energy. Authority cannot exist when boundaries are constantly violated. A self-respecting person does not overcommit to please others or neglect themselves to maintain approval. They prioritize what aligns with their values. When they say yes, it is deliberate. When they say no, it is final. This selectivity communicates worth without declaration. In relationships, self-respect becomes the difference between connection and self-betrayal. It prevents attachment from turning into dependence. It allows love to exist without sacrifice of identity. A self-respecting individual does not tolerate inconsistency, manipulation, or emotional neglect. They do not confuse attention with care or intensity with commitment. Their authority within relationships comes from the willingness to walk away rather than accept less than they deserve. Self-respect also shapes posture, presence, and demeanor. It is seen in calm movements, steady eye contact, and composed silence. There is no rush to impress or dominate. Authority expressed through self-respect feels grounded rather than aggressive. It creates a sense of stability that others naturally gravitate toward. When challenges arise, self-respect prevents collapse into self-pity or blame. A self-respecting person takes responsibility without self-attack. They acknowledge mistakes, correct course, and move forward without drama. This emotional maturity reinforces authority because it shows strength without defensiveness. Many misunderstand self-respect as pride or ego. In reality, it is humility paired with discipline. It does not require superiority over others, only loyalty to one's values. A self-respecting individual does not need to diminish others to feel important. Their authority stands independently, built on integrity rather than comparison. Over time, self-respect becomes visible in reputation. People may not always agree, but they recognize consistency. They sense that manipulation will not work, that excuses will not be entertained, and that disrespect will not be ignored. This recognition forms the basis of lasting authority. When self-respect is non-negotiable, decisions become simpler. There is less confusion, less regret, and less internal conflict. Authority no longer feels like something to maintain. It becomes something that exists effortlessly through alignment between values and actions. This form of dominance is rarely loud and never forced. It does not rely on intimidation, aggression, or constant assertion. Instead, it is felt before it is understood. In a world where most people compete for attention through noise, urgency, and emotional display, the one who remains composed stands apart. Calm becomes contrast, and contrast becomes power. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness, but in reality, it is a position of control. Those who speak constantly reveal their intentions, insecurities, and emotional state. They rush to fill every pause, afraid that silence will expose them. A person comfortable with silence is not seeking approval or validation. They are observing, assessing, and choosing their moment. This choice alone establishes dominance because it places them in the role of decision maker rather than reactor. Restraint is the discipline that supports silence. It is the ability to hold back words, reactions, and impulses even when expression feels justified. Most people say everything they think and feel everything they say. This lack of restraint makes them predictable and easily influenced. A restrained individual maintains leverage. They do not give access to their inner world freely. This controlled availability increases perceived value and authority. Calm presence is the result of internal order. It is not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. A calm person can be surrounded by chaos and remain steady. Their nervous system does not mirror the instability of others. This stability sends a powerful signal. They are not threatened, rushed, or overwhelmed. Others instinctively defer to this energy because humans are drawn to those who appear secure and grounded. Natural dominance does not announce itself. It is recognized through behavior. When someone enters a room and does not rush to speak, posture remains relaxed, movements are deliberate, and attention is focused, the dynamic shifts. People become more attentive. Conversations slow. The presence commands space without taking it. This is dominance without demand. Silence also protects power. Words once spoken cannot be taken back. They can be misinterpreted, used against the speaker, or weaken position. A silent person retains control over information. They listen more than they reveal. This makes them harder to manipulate and easier to respect. Knowledge gained through listening often outweighs influence gained through talking. Restraint extends beyond speech into action. It governs how one responds to provocation, disrespect, or emotional triggers. An unrestrained response gives others control over one's behavior. A restrained response keeps power internal. When someone expects anger and receives calm, the balance of control shifts immediately. Calm disarms chaos. It forces others to confront their own instability. Calm presence also communicates confidence without performance. There is no need to prove strength when it is already embodied. Loud assertions of dominance often mask insecurity. True dominance feels settled. It does not seek acknowledgement. It exists regardless of recognition. This is why calm individuals are often perceived as leaders even without formal authority. In social and professional environments, silence and restraint elevate credibility. A person who speaks only when necessary is listened to more closely. Their words carry weight because they are not diluted by excess. People lean in rather than tune out. This attentiveness reinforces authority organically. Emotional restraint prevents unnecessary conflict. It does not mean avoidance or suppression, but intentional expression. A restrained individual chooses when and how to address issues. They do not react impulsively to every stimulus. This selectivity preserves energy and focus, allowing them to direct attention toward what truly matters. Calm presence also affects how boundaries are enforced. Boundaries communicated with anger invite resistance. Boundaries communicated with calm certainty invite respect. When limits are set without emotion, they feel final. There is no negotiation, no justification, no escalation. The message is clear through tone and posture alone. Many people mistake dominance for control over others. In truth, dominance begins with control over oneself. Silence demonstrates control over speech. Restraint demonstrates control over impulse. Calm demonstrates control over emotion. These forms of self-mastery are universally recognized as strength, even if unconsciously. A calm individual does not rush outcomes. They are patient. They allow situations to unfold without forcing direction. This patience unsettles those who rely on urgency to gain advantage. The absence of haste signals abundance of time, options, and confidence. Silence, restraint, and calm presence do not eliminate assertiveness. They refine it. When assertion finally occurs, it is precise, measured, and effective. There is no wasted energy, no emotional leakage, The message lands because it is not competing with noise. Over time, this way of being reshapes how others interact. People become more respectful, more cautious, more attentive. They sense that reactions cannot be provoked easily, that emotional manipulation will fail, and that respect is required rather than requested. Natural dominance emerges not through dominance over others, but through mastery of oneself. Walls are built from fear, avoidance, and unresolved pain. Standards are built from clarity, self-respect, and intention. A wall shuts everything out indiscriminately. A standard filters what is allowed in. This distinction changes everything about how boundaries function and how they are perceived. When boundaries are rooted in standards, they do not isolate, they protect alignment. Many people hesitate to set boundaries because they fear appearing cold, selfish, or unapproachable. This fear often comes from confusing boundaries with rejection. A boundary is not a punishment directed at others, it is a commitment made to oneself. It communicates what behavior is acceptable, what behavior is not, and what consequences follow when those standards are ignored. Without standards, boundaries collapse into inconsistency, and inconsistency erodes self-respect. Standards are calm and impersonal. They are not emotional reactions to a single event, but principles applied consistently over time. When someone operates from standards, they do not argue about boundaries or repeatedly explain them. They allow actions to speak. If behavior aligns, access remains. If behavior violates standards, access is reduced or removed. There is no need for drama, justification, or resentment. Walls are often built after betrayal or disappointment. They are rigid and defensive. Standards, on the other hand, exist before conflict arises. They are preventative rather than reactive. A person with standards does not wait to be mistreated to decide what they will tolerate. They know in advance. This foresight creates stability and authority, both internally and externally. Boundaries rooted in standards also create clarity for others. People may not always like the limits, but they understand them. Clear standards eliminate confusion. Mixed signals disappear. Relationships become simpler because expectations are known. Those who respect the standards feel secure. Those who seek to exploit ambiguity naturally fall away. A common mistake is believing that flexibility means lowering standards. True flexibility exists within clear boundaries. A person with standards can be compassionate without being permissive. They can understand without excusing. They can forgive without forgetting patterns. Standards allow kindness to coexist with firmness. In relationships, boundaries as standards prevent self-betrayal. Without them, people overextend, overgive, and tolerate behaviors that slowly erode their dignity. They remain in situations that drain them, hoping patience will be rewarded. Standards shift this dynamic. They make it clear that connection is conditional on mutual respect, effort, and consistency. Boundaries also shape how time and energy are managed. A person with standards does not make themselves constantly available. They do not sacrifice rest to meet unreasonable demands. They value their time because they value themselves. This selectivity is not arrogance, it is discernment. When access is not unlimited, it becomes meaningful. Standards must be enforced to remain credible. A boundary stated but not upheld becomes a suggestion. Repeated violations without consequence teach others that standards are negotiable. Enforcing boundaries does not require anger. It requires consistency. Calm follow through communicate seriousness more effectively than emotional confrontation. Many people fear that boundaries will push others away. In reality, they reveal who belongs. Those who respect standards remain. Those who benefit from the absence of boundaries leave. This sorting process is not a loss, it is refinement. It protects energy and preserves self-respect. Boundaries as standards also strengthen internal alignment. When actions match values, internal conflict decreases. There is less resentment, less guilt, less confusion. Decisions become clearer. Choices feel grounded. A person who honors their standards trusts themselves more, and that self-trust becomes visible in how they move through the world. Standards evolve as self-awareness deepens. What was once tolerated may no longer be acceptable. Adjusting boundaries is not inconsistency, it is growth. The key is clarity. When standards change, behavior must change with them. This integrity reinforces authority. Boundaries expressed through standards do not need to be constantly defended. They stand on their own. They are not walls meant to keep people out, but filters designed to allow in only what aligns with values, respect, and intention. Through standards, boundaries become a quiet form of strength that protects dignity, preserves energy, and maintains alignment without conflict. This principle is often misunderstood because society teaches that desire must be pursued, that approval must be earned, and that connection is a result of relentless effort. A queen operates in an entirely different realm. She does not push to be seen, liked, or wanted. Instead, she moves in accordance with her values, her purpose, and her identity, and through that alignment, she naturally draws people, opportunities, and situations toward her. Chasing is born from lack. It is the impulse that arises when someone feels incomplete without external confirmation. It seeks validation outside of the self, and it measures worth based on the response of others. A queen recognizes this instinct but does not surrender to it. She understands that to chase is to surrender power, to give away control over how she is perceived, and to compromise the integrity of her presence. Chasing creates neediness, desperation, and imbalance, and these qualities are antithetical to the quiet authority she embodies. Alignment, on the other hand, is rooted in internal clarity. A queen knows who she is, what she wants, and what she will allow in her life. Her decisions are guided not by the whims of others, but by her own standards and principles. Every action, every word, and every choice reflects this alignment. She does not bend to fit the expectations of those who have not earned a place in her life. She does not alter her behavior to secure approval. In this steadfast alignment, she becomes magnetic because people instinctively recognize authenticity and power. Attraction through alignment is effortless yet compelling. It does not scream for attention or force connection. Instead, it radiates confidence, self-respect, and clarity. Others sense this energy on a subconscious level. They feel drawn to it because it reflects stability, purpose, and value. Unlike chasing, which often repels and exhausts, attraction through alignment creates a natural pull. People are drawn to what they cannot manipulate, to what is steady and intentional, to what demands respect without demanding it. A queen's alignment extends to all aspects of her life. Her time is protected because she prioritizes what is important. Her energy is managed because she engages only in interactions that serve growth and respect. Her words are measured because she speaks only when communication adds value. Her presence is deliberate because she moves through the world according to intention, not impulse. Each of these choices reinforces the magnetic quality of her being. She does not need to chase opportunities or relationships because she has positioned herself to attract them through disciplined alignment. Chasing often arises from impatience. It is the desire to accelerate outcomes, to control timing, and to demand results. A queen counters this by cultivating patience rooted in alignment. She understands that timing is not hers to manipulate. By focusing on herself, refining her craft, maintaining her standards, and embodying her identity, she allows the right people and situations to arrive organically. Patience does not mean inaction. It means thoughtful action that aligns with purpose rather than reactionary pursuit. Emotional independence is another cornerstone of this principle. A queen does not seek validation, affection, or attention to feel worthy. She understands that these are supplementary, not foundational. She honors her own needs, nurtures her own growth, and maintains stability regardless of external circumstances. In doing so, she communicates that she is complete on her own. This completeness is inherently attractive because it signals strength, confidence, and authenticity. Chasing creates imbalance in relationships. It pressures others, signals desperation, and often leads to compromise. When a queen aligns, relationships develop naturally around mutual respect, shared values, and reciprocal effort. She attracts those who are compatible, capable of meeting her standards, and willing to engage in a way that is healthy and balanced. She does not settle for less because she does not feel incomplete without the other person's approval. Alignment also enhances presence. A queen who operates in alignment exudes calm authority. She does not need to overcompensate through constant communication, validation, seeking, or emotional display. Her presence communicates clarity and security. Others are drawn to this energy because it reflects someone who knows herself, protects her integrity, and does not bend to external pressures. Presence combined with alignment creates a gravitational pull that chasing cannot replicate. Furthermore, alignment is dynamic. It grows as the queen grows. She refines her standards, sharpens her focus, and deepens her understanding of her own desires and boundaries. This evolution makes her increasingly magnetic. People are drawn not only to who she is in the moment, but to the trajectory of her growth. Chasing, by contrast, stagnates. It relies on what has been earned, what can be grabbed, and what is immediately accessible, leaving little room for depth or evolution. The essence of attraction through alignment lies in authenticity. A queen does not perform to please. She does not manipulate to gain favor. She is consistent, deliberate, and uncompromising in her integrity. Her actions are predictable in their consistency and unpredictable in their depth. She does not create tension to generate interest. She creates clarity to generate respect. This alignment becomes a filter that naturally draws the right people and repels those who are incompatible, preserving energy and maintaining dignity. Ultimately, a queen's power is invisible yet undeniable. She does not need to chase because her alignment produces results naturally. The effort is internal, disciplined, and intentional, and the impact is external, magnetic, and lasting. Every choice she makes is in service of her standards, her purpose, and her identity, and through this unwavering alignment, she attracts what is meant for her. This is the quiet, unshakable power that separates those who are admired from those who are merely noticed. True royalty is not measured by titles, wealth, or external recognition. It is measured by integrity, the seamless alignment between what one believes, what one expresses, and what one does. When these three elements operate in harmony, authority becomes invisible yet undeniable, and influence arises naturally without effort or assertion. Most people live in contradiction. They say one thing, think another, and do yet a third. This inconsistency creates internal tension and external confusion. Others may sense it even if they cannot articulate it. Inconsistency diminishes respect. It signals unreliability and invites doubt. True royalty, however, requires the courage to live without contradiction. To be royal is to ensure that every thought, word, and action reflects the values and principles one holds sacred. This alignment fosters credibility, trust, and gravitas. Thoughts are the root of action. They shape perception, influence decisions, and color behavior. A person who thinks chaotically or inconsistently will inevitably act in ways that are unpredictable and confusing. Royalty begins with mental discipline, the cultivation of clear, deliberate, and value-driven thoughts. These thoughts are neither reactive nor scattered. They are intentional, informed by self-respect, and guided by purpose. By controlling the inner dialogue, a queen ensures that her external expressions will naturally align with her identity. Words are the bridge between thought and action. They communicate intent, convey boundaries, and influence perception. Without consistency between thought and word, language becomes hollow. It becomes a tool for manipulation, excuse, or deception. A queen speaks deliberately, only when necessary, and only in alignment with her principles. Her words do not contradict her beliefs. They do not undermine her authority. Every sentence reflects the thought that birthed it, ensuring clarity and integrity in communication. People trust her because her words carry weight. They are not disposable or performative. Actions are the final and most visible proof of alignment. Royalty is demonstrated in behavior, not rhetoric. A queen's actions are a reflection of her internal standards and her spoken commitments. When she promises, she fulfills. When she sets a boundary, she enforces it. When she believes in a principle, she embodies it. Actions rooted in consistency between thought and word create credibility that cannot be faked or easily challenged. They form the foundation of long-lasting influence, the kind of presence that commands respect without demanding it. Consistency requires self-awareness. It is not enough to desire alignment, one must actively cultivate it. A queen observes herself with honesty, identifying gaps between her intentions, expressions, and deeds. She examines where impulsivity, fear, or desire might distort authenticity. This reflection is ongoing because true alignment is a dynamic practice, not a static state. It requires vigilance, discipline, and the courage to correct course when deviation occurs. Royalty is sustained through this unrelenting commitment to internal and external coherence. Inconsistent individuals often confuse charm with influence. They rely on charisma to cover gaps between thought, word, and action. Their presence may be noticed, but it lacks depth and durability. True royalty is not flashy or performative. It is quiet, deliberate, and confident. People sense the difference instinctively. They respond to the integrity of alignment more than to any external display of power or status. A queen's influence is magnetic precisely because it is anchored in consistency. Boundaries are reinforced by this alignment. A queen's standards are reflected in her thoughts, articulated in her words, and manifested in her actions. There is no contradiction that can be exploited. attempts to manipulate or test her meet predictable resistance, not confusion. Her consistency signals that respect is non-negotiable, that principles are unwavering, and that access to her trust and energy must be earned. This reliability generates authority without aggression. Consistency between thought, word, and action also shapes emotional intelligence. A queen experiences emotion fully, but she does not allow feelings to derail alignment. Her anger is measured, her joy authentic, and her compassion intentional. She does not react impulsively to triggers or external pressures. Instead, she observes, assesses, and chooses responses that honor both herself and her values. Emotional mastery is inseparable from consistency. It ensures that power is exercised with precision rather than chaos. Over time, alignment between thought, word, and action cultivates legacy. A queen is remembered not for momentary victories or superficial charm, but for the integrity she embodied in every choice and interaction. People respect her because they can rely on her. They understand what she stands for and trust that her presence and influence are dependable. This is the essence of true authority. It is quiet, enduring, and rooted in the coherence of being. Self-trust is reinforced by this consistency. When thoughts, words, and actions align, a queen knows she can rely on herself. She does not second-guess, over-explain, or seek constant external validation. Her decisions carry confidence because they are based on an internal compass that is unwavering. This self-trust radiates outward, further solidifying her natural authority and enhancing her capacity to influence without force or coercion. In contrast, inconsistency breeds internal conflict. When thoughts contradict words or words contradict actions, a person experiences guilt, anxiety, and doubt. These feelings seep into interactions, eroding presence and diminishing perceived value. Alignment protects against this erosion. It creates clarity of identity, clarity of intention, and clarity of communication. Each decision, each conversation, and each action reinforces the whole, making the individual coherent, reliable, and formidable. True royalty is not accidental. It is cultivated through discipline, self-awareness, and unwavering commitment to alignment. Thoughts shape integrity, words communicate authenticity, and actions validate both. When these three operate in harmony, a queen commands respect effortlessly. She does not need to assert authority aggressively or perform to impress. Influence is a natural byproduct of her coherence because people instinctively recognize alignment as strength, stability, and credibility.